Welcome back into Sports Tonight. Joining me now is the Spurs beat writer for the San Antonio Express-News, Jabari Young. Jabari, thanks so much for joining us on the show tonight.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Earlier this morning, former Spur Kawhi Leonard released a statement for the first time since he's been traded to the Toronto Raptors, thanking his former team and the San Antonio community. You mentioned Kawhi's people contacted you directly about it. How did it all go down?
Well, they said that they wanted to, release something to say thank you. And Kawhi wrote the letter himself. And after it was all said and done, he distributed it to the Express News. And, we obviously published it in the paper and I wrote about it. And, listen, everybody is going to complain and say, hey, it was too late. It's late. We don't accept it. But at the bottom line, looking at the reaction, it's so sad because you can't even say thank you anymore with everybody instead of everybody criticizing it. So, listen, nobody expected him to do this. So I think the fact that he at least, thanked Greg Popovich, thanked his former teammates, thanked the city of San Antonio and the fans, I think you can salute that. You can feel one way about it or the other. You can feel, we need more explanation as to what happened. But listen, the Spurs didn't go into explanation of what happened when they finalized the trade and Greg Popovich talked. As he said, it makes no sense to go back and revisit what happened. It's over. It's done. It's moving on. Before Kawhi finishes this chapter in San Antonio, before he puts on a Raptors jersey, he sent out one last thank you. Just one last thank you for the past 7 years, 3 of which he became a superstar caliber player with the San Antonio Spurs. I just saw nothing wrong with that. In fact, I applaud him for it, being as though that he is as reserved as he is.
So your first impression of the letter was overall positive?
Absolutely. I mean, listen, I said that Tony Parker's, when he said, goodbye and thank you to San Antonio, I said, you know what? It was great, but it was late. Now, you can say, okay, Kawhi, it was just a little bit late, but at the same time, you may give him a smaller pass because he's so reserved. He's not used to saying this. He's not used to doing this. If you read the first part of that letter, it said, I've been going back and forth with this, and this is not to defend anybody, but he's been going back and forth because he probably really did not know what to say. And instead of trying to get too deep into anything, you just say your thank yous, you keep it moving. Again, thanking Greg Popovich, thanking the fans of San Antonio. Some people are going to like it. Some people are going to hate it. Some people are going to just be mixed about it. But at the same time, you can't argue that at least the man said thank you.
Speaking of Coach Popovich and the Spurs, moving forward to this year, the NBA TV schedule was recently released, and San Antonio is absent for the first week of games as well as major holidays. Why do you think that is?
Well, it's just plain and simple. I mean, with all due respect to the Spurs, they don't have any superstar players on this roster. I mean, DeMar DeRozan is an all-star player. Some can maybe make the argument that he's, superstar, borderline. LaMarcus Aldridge, I'm not taking a shot at him. I think he would be the first to tell you I'm not considered a superstar player in this league. I'm an all-star player. When you got teams like the Philadelphia 76ers who have a guy like Joel Embiid who's always out there, who's one of the faces now of the new age NBA, the Boston Celtics, the Eastern Conference made it to the Eastern Conference Finals last year. LeBron is now with the Lakers. Giannis Antetokounmpo up in Milwaukee. This is about superstar players. This is about having the best faces, the faces of the league represent you on national days. And the Spurs have had their time in the sun, and now those young teams, they're on the rise. They're coming up. So believe me, I don't think the Spurs are one way. I don't think they care about this at all. I mean, they'd rather be home with their family. I know I'd rather be home with my family instead of covering a Christmas Day game. So I just think that it's the NBA. Remember, it's not only the NBA that's doing this. This is the TV schedule. The TV execs are the ones telling the league, this is who we want on our channel during these national televised games. The NBA only has so much control over. You know why? Because those TV companies are paying the NBA billions of dollars. So they're going to have some say in this. They didn't want the Spurs this year. The Spurs should not have any beef at all with that. Go home, enjoy the holiday, watch the games like everybody else on TV.
Jabari, thank you so much. Always a pleasure. You can read Kawhi's full letter as well as more from Jabari Young at mysanantonio.com.
Thanks for having me.
You're watching Sports Tonight, San Antonio's only nightly 30-minute sportscast with exclusive sports coverage you won't find anywhere else.